As you may all be familiar with by now, the OceanGate Titan submersible is taking the internet by storm.
An elite travel adventure
for the missing deep-sea sub.
Way to the Titanic wreckage site.
Search teams from the US and Canada
in the North Atlantic Ocean for the missing submersible.
Banging noises. There have been multiple reports of...
They sadly lost their CEO.
I'm worried he kills himself.
It embarked on the quest of watching the lifeless and rotting remains of none other than the Titanic by diving more than 3,000 meters. This adventure took a very foul turn as it went missing in less than a day. And this issue is taking international coverage. Along with many making fun of the billionaires for having such eccentric hobbies, others are claiming that this is a setup for a much bigger conspiracy. And as always, The Simpsons are also involved in this. Let's get to the basics of this adventure first. Since the news of the tragic submarine implosion came out, people have been going crazy, and this topic never seems to die out. What is truly strange about this incident is the fact that it was predicted in a Simpsons episode. It is not a myth that the show has predicted some of the major events that occur in our world, from 9/11 to Trump becoming president, and even hinted at the discovery of a three-eyed fish. The Simpsons strangely predict the entire incident of a submarine that is set to see shipwreckage under the sea getting lost and running out of oxygen. And this is something the viewers of the show are noticing now. The episode does seem to have a strong connection to the current incident, which is making many people wonder what the actual truth is about the submarine incident. On July 18th, 5 people began their expedition to see the ruins of the famous Titanic in an OceanGate submersible that would take them on an adventure of a lifetime. The 5 people on board included British billionaire Hamish Harding, 58, French oceanographer Paul-Henri Nargeolet, 77, Pakistani-born magnate Shahzada Dawood, 48, along with his 19-year-old son Suleiman, and Stockton Rush, who was the founder of OceanGate and was in charge of piloting the submarine. All of these 5 people on board were billionaires who paid $250,000 per person to see the ruins of Titanic in a tiny submarine. But what they didn't have in mind was that this expedition would cause them to suffer the same fate that people on Titanic faced. Their expedition began on Friday and was expected to take a tour of the Titanic wreckage, but things didn't go as planned. The expedition of these 5 wealthy men began in Newfoundland, Canada, and descended into the sea on Sunday, as one of the members posted his journey's update on Facebook. Hamish Harding took to Facebook and wrote that, due to unfavorable weather conditions, this might be the last dive of OceanGate's submersible. The tiny submarine weighed approximately 10,434 kilograms and had a length of 6.7 meters. There was enough space for the 5 men to see the wrecks of the Titanic with a limited amount of food and oxygen on board. They were set to descend to a depth of 12,500 feet below the ocean's surface to view the ruins of the Titanic, with an estimated time of descent of 2 hours. But call it bad luck that 1 hour and 45 minutes into their expedition, the submarine lost contact with the land and was lost in the sea. Authorities were alerted when the submarine didn't make it back in time and hence concluded that the submarine had lost connection. This created a huge concern since these 5 people were lost in the depths of the sea with limited food and oxygen and would die a painful death if something wasn't done in time. On Monday, the news began to circulate all over the world as people were concerned yet baffled at the decision of these billionaires to dive to the depths of the sea to see the wrecks of something that was also the result of a fatal accident. To detect the location of the submarine, U.S. and Canadian ships and planes dropped sonar buoys that would monitor to a depth of 13,000 feet, but still couldn't find any trace of the submersible. Research teams from countries like Canada, France, and Britain also participated in the research program to find the missing submarine, which made headlines all over the world. People were curious yet fascinated by the incident, as they couldn't imagine any sane person diving 12,000 feet deep to see the wrecks of the Titanic, while others anticipated that these 5 people would ever come out alive. On Tuesday, the family of Shahzada Dawood confirmed that both father and son are in the missing submarine, and their family anticipates their safe return. It was also reported that Canadian aircraft had detected banging sounds from within the ocean surface, which they thought were the noise made by people stuck in the submarine and trying to get themselves out of there. This was saddening, but it also made people even more curious about what was going to happen next. And this is where the media came into play. Several news channels began to use this tragic set of events to capture the attention of the public, and it worked out because, for the past 3 days, we haven't had any other news than the missing submarine. On Wednesday, both the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guards and the Navy established a unified command to handle the search operation. It was again revealed on Wednesday that there were noises detected underwater, which could again be from the 5 members on board the OceanGate submarine. On Wednesday, it was revealed that the oxygen left on the submarine would run out on Thursday morning and cause each of the 5 members to die a painful death. This was a perfect opportunity for many news stations, as they used this tragic news to hook audiences to their television screens. While the news tried to keep people optimistic that they might find the missing submarine, deep down everyone knew that this wasn't possible, as it took more than 70 years to find the ruins of the Titanic, and there was only 1 in a billion chance of finding a tiny 6.7-meter submarine in a giant ocean. On Thursday morning, many news channels had a timer on their screens that was showing that the 96-hour oxygen supply was about to run out in a few hours. There were still search operations going on, but deep down, everybody knew that it was impossible to rescue these 5 men from the depths of the ocean in such a short time, not to mention that their location hadn't been traced yet. Finally, when the 96-hour oxygen ran out, everyone believed that these 5 men on board had died, which was indeed a tragic death for them. It was believed that these 5 men were experiencing the worst conditions, as they were not only locked in a tiny submarine in the large sea, but also had limited food resources. And on top of that, the stress they had to go through, knowing that their chances of survival were extremely low. It was also believed that the submarine would have been filled with the smell of rotten food and feces, which would further cause discomfort to the people on board. Till this point, many people believed that the cause of the deaths of these 5 men on board was a lack of oxygen, but all that changed when the submarine's debris was found. Later on Thursday, it was reported that there were broken pieces of the submarine found somewhere near the wreck of the Titanic, which implied that the submarine must have imploded under the immense pressure of the seawater. Many people believe that if that were the case, then the deaths of these 5 men were due to the implosion of the submarine, which occurs in milliseconds. Now, it has been confirmed that these 5 men died within milliseconds of the submarine's implosion, but what is strange is that it is believed that the submarine likely imploded on Sunday. Many experts suggest that OceanGate's submarine was approximately 13,000 feet down in the depths of the sea, and this built a huge pressure on the submarine, which might have resulted in an implosion that likely happened on Sunday. It was also revealed that the youngest person on board, Suleiman, wasn't even willing to go on this expedition, but did it all because he wanted to spend time with his father on Father's Day. All of these 5 men had no clue how their $250,000 adventure would eventually become their last adventure, as their fate was going to be similar to that of the people who died on the Titanic. It was also revealed that Stockton Rush, the co-founder of OceanGate, had a connection with the Titanic. Stockton's wife was a descendant of a famous couple who had died on the ocean liner. Stockton was passionate about exploring the ruins of the Titanic and, just like the makers of the ship, believed that the ship was invulnerable, which were ultimately the famous last words. This wasn't OceanGate's first submarine expedition, as the company also offered its service in 2021 and 2022. Their expeditions would often face problems but somehow managed to return to the land. The problems were indeed notified to OceanGate so that future expeditions would be much safer, but it seems that no precaution was taken. People from within the OceanGate company also stated that the hull of the submarine was also not working well and was rebuilt, which might have also contributed to the major failure catastrophe. It was also revealed that the OceanGate, which charges its customers $250,000 for an 8-hour expedition, was being controlled by a Logitech F710 wireless gaming controller with analog sticks. This shocked people by showing how unsafe the whole expedition was from the beginning, which these billionaires failed to see. It seemed that their curiosity got the best of them and made them suffer the same fate as the people on the Titanic. This was indeed tragic news about how people who were passionate about the sea ended up being a part of it forever. It was confirmed that the cause of death for these 5 people was a catastrophic implosion. But what was strange was that it is believed that the implosion likely occurred on Sunday, so what were the noises that were heard by the sonars? But what is odd about the OceanGate incident is the fact that the officials failed to trace the location of the submarine, but somehow knew exactly where to look after it was confirmed that the submarine imploded. Another thing that made people suspicious was the research officials' finding of fully intact remains, which nullified the catastrophic effects of a submarine implosion. How come the team of researchers was able to find the submarine a few hours after it imploded? What were the noises that the officials kept on talking about that weren't even from the submarine? This generated tons of conspiracies as people started to speculate that there might be more to the story of the OceanGate disaster. Many people believed that the implosion was being covered up by the media to keep people hooked on the news. And this had a lot to do with the Mediterranean boat incident. On June 14th, a boat carrying a packed migrant boat sank off the coast of Greece. It was carrying approximately 750 people, but most of the migrants were Pakistanis. Due to the neglect and mistreatment of the Greece Coast Guard, the incident resulted in the deaths of more than hundreds of Pakistanis, and some even made the harsh confession that they were being treated as the least priority when it came to survival. The death toll is still going on, but since the world was busy searching for the submarine with 5 billionaires, this tragic incident got pushed under the rug, which shows the reality of the media and the government. Talking about distraction, while major media channels were busy figuring out the mystery of the submarine, major things happened that went unnoticed. It has been reported that $6 billion are missing from the Pentagon, which they refer to as an accounting error. More than 46 million emails were deleted that contained proof regarding J.P. Morgan and Jeffrey Epstein. These were major events that were covered by the news of OceanGate's missing submarine, which kept on running on television days after the submarine imploded. Could it be that the government officials took advantage of the OceanGate situation to cover their own mess? It has now been confirmed that all 5 members on board have died due to an implosion, which gives us a lesson that sometimes the tragedies of the past should be left to rest and not explored. According to conspiracy theorists, there weren't any billionaires present in the submarine at the time of its implosion. As per the theory, this was a fake event that was done so that these billionaires could escape the circle of taxes and regulations that are imposed on them. This is not the first time someone has been accused of faking their death. In fact, it is believed that Jeffrey Epstein is also alive and intentionally faked his death to get away with all the dark stuff that he was involved in. To back this bold claim, conspiracy theorists point out the flaws in the whole story of the OceanGate incident. How could the government find the debris of the submersible right after the time limit for oxygen ran out? How were they able to trace the exact location? And if they could do so, how were they not able to do that days before? Could it be that the reality of this incident is being concealed from the world? Or was this just an incident where curiosity got the best of these 5 men? If you liked today's video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Do you think that the Titanic's bad luck impacted the expedition of these 5 billionaires? Or did their curiosity cause them to die a painful death? Let us know in the comments below.